Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Kaylee and on this channel I cover all things true crime, travel, lifestyle and just generalized vlogs. But today you've stumbled across the true crime section of the channel, and now I just want to give a warning. True crime videos and true crime cases are not suitable for everybody. And if you think that you may be offended by the contents of today's video, I would highly recommend you go to another one. I'm sure there'll be something here on the channel that you will enjoy. So today's case is a little bit different from what I have been covering recently. I've been recently doing the unsolved cases, but I'm sort of jumping back into, well, this case is a bit of a weird one. So it's an solved case slash reveal. I don't know how to explain this case, but it's most certainly interesting and it has a lot of twists and turns in it. So I'm going to jump straight into today's case, which is that of Natasha Ryan, also known as the girl in the cupboard. Natasha Ryan was born on the 9th of May 1984 to Robert and Jenny Ryan. She was one of 3 children and the family were living in Rockhampton. Natasha was known to be a loving and caring young girl who affectionately had the nickname Grasshopper. Now, Jenny and Robert Ryan had decided to divorce, and Robert would then move to Bundaberg, which is a neighbouring town. It was about 45 minutes from Rockhampton, with his new partner. This had devastating effects on Natasha's mental health, and she would start to dabble in drugs, she would skip school, and she just became a very angry young girl. In 1998, when Natasha was just 14 years old, she was attending North Rockhampton High School, and it's here that she starts to date Scott Black, who was 21 years of age. During their relationship, Natasha would run away from home multiple times with the assistance of Scott. Now, this relationship was obviously very taboo with the extreme age difference. On August 31st, 1998, Natasha was taken to school in the morning by her mum, Jenny. When she jumped out of the car, she did say to her mum, "I love you and I'll see you later on." But when Jenny returned to pick her daughter up from school later that afternoon, she was nowhere to be seen. Natasha had in fact not gone into school that day and had been marked absent from every single one of her classes. Later that day, after Jenny had returned home to see if Natasha had actually just walked home from school herself, she discovered that Natasha was also not at home, and it's then that she decides to call the police and lodge a missing persons report. But due to the fact that Natasha had run away previously in the past, the police sort of didn't jump onto this until a couple of days later. Once the police investigation had in fact been launched, the police contacted Scott Black, Natasha's boyfriend, to ask if he had in fact seen or heard from Natasha. He claimed to police that he had only spoken to Natasha on the day that she went missing, but have since had no contact with her at all. The police are then contacted by a witness who comes forward and says that they seen Natasha standing outside of a cinema in the Rockhampton town with an older gentleman, but the date of this was unclear. Months then pass and very little actually becomes of Natasha's case. Her mum Jenny does do an interview with 9 News and claims that now, after the months have passed, she does believe that something horrendous has happened to Natasha, as Natasha would never put her family through the turmoil that they are all suffering. But during the next 8 months, 3 additional women would go missing from the Rockhampton area. In December, 39-year-old Julie Turner disappeared. In March, 36-year-old Beverly Lego disappeared. And on April 22nd, 9-year-old Kira Steinhardt was violently abducted and killed. But this final event would ultimately break open the case. On April 22nd, Kira Steinhardt, who is just 9 years old, was walking home from school. She had decided to take a shortcut through a paddock, and it was here that she was hit on the back of the head and put into the boot of a car. There was, however, witnesses to this attack, but it took the witnesses 20 minutes before they would contact the police. They revealed to the police that the man who had in fact abducted Kira was wearing bright yellow shorts, a white t-shirt, and had a small red car. A description of this man is released to the public, and it wasn't long before somebody called the police to tell them they know who it is and where they actually are. The man accused was Leonard Fraser. Leonard Fraser was born on the 27th of June 1951 in Ingham in Queensland. But as soon as the police were told his name, they knew exactly who they were looking for, as Leonard had spent the last 20 out of 22 years in prison for multiple rape. He was known to police as the Rockhampton Rapist. Police do search Leonard's car and home, and it's here that they find the blood from young Kira. During the police investigation, the police also discover that Leonard had connections with all of the missing women. Julie Turner and Leonard both worked at the same meat factory. Beverly Lego had in fact lived across the road at one point in time from Leonard. And then Jenny Ryan was able to pick Leonard out of a lineup, as she claimed that Leonard was frequently at the same bowling alley that Natasha would often go to. The police then got an additional breakthrough in Kira's case when Leonard's girlfriend came forward to police to claim that on the day of Kira's abduction, Leonard had come home and picked her up and had taken her for a drive into some local wooded area. It was here that Leonard got something she claimed to be doll-like out of the boot of the car, walked into the woods, but had returned empty-handed. Ultimately, Leonard Fraser was convicted of the murder of Kira, and only 1 year into his prison sentence, he claimed to a fellow inmate that he had in fact killed the additional young women. Leonard's fellow inmate did report this to the police, and eventually the police come to question Leonard about where the bodies are for the additional victims. Eventually, Leonard does agree to tell the police where Beverly Lego and Julie Turner's body is, but he refuses to tell the police where Natasha Ryan is buried. In July of 2003, Leonard is now facing trial for the murders of Julie, Beverly, and Natasha. But on the 11th day of the proceedings, the prosecutor announces to the court that Leonard Fraser was not guilty of the murder of Natasha Ryan, much to the shock of everybody in the court. The prosecutor said that due to the fact that Natasha had now been found safe and well, they could not proceed with Natasha's court case. Natasha's parents, Jenny and Robert, who were at the court proceedings, initially did not believe the prosecutor had found Natasha alive and well. It was only when a phone call connection was made for Robert to speak to Natasha, and Robert asked the person on the phone what Natasha's childhood nickname was, that he then believed he was speaking to his long-lost daughter. Ultimately, the case against Leonard Fraser for Julie and Beverly did proceed, but I will cover that in an additional video. So let's jump back in time a little bit. Just a month or so earlier, on April 10th, the police receive an anonymous tip. Now, the tipper claims that Natasha Ryan was in fact alive and well, and that she had just ran away. But the police were unable to proceed with this because there was no evidence that Natasha was alive, and they had Leonard's confession. But then in July, when the police received another tip with the actual address of where Natasha was living, the police proceeded to go to the address, which was that of Scott Black. As the police enter Scott Black's home looking for any evidence of Natasha being there and alive, the police realise that Scott is acting very nervous. The police then go through the main bedroom and realise that there is somebody hidden inside the bedroom cupboard. When they open the cupboard door, they find Natasha sitting crouched on the cupboard floor. For the previous 5 years, Natasha Ryan has lived with Scott Black, only leaving the home a handful of times. Natasha claimed to police that it was entirely her idea to run away and live a life of secrecy, and that Scott Black was only doing as she asked. During the last 5 years, the pair did move to an additional town for Scott's work, but had returned to Rockhampton and was now just living 5 minutes away from her mum's home. Natasha has since claimed that she will never reveal publicly why she ran away, but during a paid interview with the TV show 60 Minutes, Natasha claimed that she was just very angry with everybody and everything. Natasha also claims that during the previous 5 years, she had wanted to return home, but the lie had just gotten too big and she was unable to go home. It was only once she realised that somebody was actually being charged for her murder that she knew she had to come forward. She had in fact been the anonymous tip to the kids' helpline to say that Natasha was alive and well. Now, if you're wondering what actually happened to Scott and Natasha, well, Natasha was fined $1,000 for letting the unnecessary police investigation go ahead. Scott was also fined $16,000 and received a 3-year prison sentence for perjury, but he only served 12 months. Once the public learned of the fines that Natasha and Scott had actually received, there was a little bit of an outcry, as the public were also aware that Natasha had been receiving payments from 60 Minutes for her interview, and additional magazines were also paying her for her story. The public believed that they should have put up the almost $500,000 it cost in tax-paying money for her police investigation. But to my knowledge, it was never actually repaid. To this day, Scott and Natasha are still together. They did get married in 2008 and ultimately sold their wedding photos to a local magazine. But they have since moved out of the Rockhampton area and have started a family of their own. So this case was most certainly a weird one. I mean, it ultimately leads into additional cases that will be coming up very shortly on the channel in regards to Kira and Beverly and Julia, their cases, and with Leonard. So that is their additional cases that are most certainly coming. I haven't just left that as a we'll never talk about it. But the Natasha Ryan aspect of it's just crazy that he admitted to killing her for what? Clout. Who knows what, especially when he was never going to be able to produce her body because she was alive. And he obviously had nothing to do with her death because she was not dead. I do find it ultimately very concerning that someone could put their family through the distress that she did. She was just a child though, and I do have to keep putting that into my own mind that she was only 14, and I'm sure, she possibly initially didn't think about the outcome that was going to come forth to her family and her friends and her loved ones. Scott, on the other hand, was a 21-year-old adult and would have most certainly realised the just absolute heartbreak that her family would have felt. I personally believe he should have been punished a lot more, but it's just, it also makes me think there has to be a reason why she ran away. You would think, okay, a kid has run away from home because they're angry or they're upset, but to stay away for 5 years, ultimately something has to have happened for her to feel the need to run away and leave and never contact your family and just disappear. Obviously, I'm ecstatic that Natasha is alive and well, and I hope that her life has improved and she's living a happy and healthy life. This case, it's a weird one. That's all I want to say is it's a weird one. If you have enjoyed today's case, please remember to hit that subscribe button and hit the little notification bell to get notified of when I upload new videos. I do upload a new true crime case every single Monday and additional videos throughout the week. Please remember to take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!